something topics in total. So we're going to split them into two groups of 7, and then you can go to one for the first one and one for the second one. We'll be taking notes of each thing. So please don't worry about like missing a session, because we'll take notes and write a report afterwards. Then we'll wrap up at the end as well. Now, just getting started, because I'm aware there's still some people to arrive. While we're waiting for the final people to come in, if you could go to menti.com and enter the code 37400645. I did just this works, so hopefully it works. You should see a question. We've got a couple of questions for you. The first of which is, how many UK TRE community meetings have you been to, including this one? So I guess the minimum number is 1, because everyone here has been to one. And if you've been to, this must be the 5th one, September, December, March, June. Oh, it's actually the 6th one. So if you've been to 5 or 6.
Can you repeat the Menti code number?
Yeah, sure. It's on the screen here as well. It's 37400645. You also know, is this a lot of newbies? There's a lot of people who've been to many other ones. Cool. Hovering around the 2 mark. Someone's been to all, there's definitely someone who's been to all 5. Simon. There we go. That's him answering there. Awesome. So it looks like it's a fair few at the 1, 2, and 3 mark. This is cool. Thank you for everyone who's coming back, so beyond the 1 mark, and welcome if this is your first one. I think we saw a big attendance in September, so the 1 and 2 mark makes a lot of sense. Cool. For those just joining, if you go to menti.com and put in the code 37400645, you can answer this question of how many UK TRE meetings you have been to, including this one. Feels like a decent response rate, 45-ish from 60 participants. And it really tells off. I'm sure there's more than 2 people here who have been to all 5. I'm not sure where you're hiding. I also haven't answered it, so you can make it 3. Second question, and again, just for as well, waiting for people to come in. Would you rather have a Christmas tree or a Christmas TRE? Hopefully the question is updated.
Don't know if it's just me, but I'm not seeing an updated question, Harry.
Neither me, it's hanging around.
Try clicking on present.
Oh, it's hidden, that's why. There we go. Would you rather have a Christmas tree or a Christmas TRE? We have no idea which way this is going to go. I totally wasn't expecting it to be like almost dead even. Can we push Christmas TRE? This is the UK TRE meeting. Can we push it into the top? Rob.
I mean, surely a TRE is for life, not just for Christmas.
That is true. Potentially more sustainable as well. You deploy and manage your own TRE. It's quite hard to grow your own Christmas tree. That is surprisingly easy. Sorry?
Saying for life or the expiry of the data agreement, whichever comes first.
It's true. Christmas tree is winning out. I'd love to see who feels very strongly about it. Maybe we can have a chat in the general discussion section. Like the merits of having a Christmas tree over a Christmas TRE. We almost got there with cool. Thank you very much, everyone. I think that was just some sort of activities to get us started while people were coming in. I will just jump back to the presentation and we can get started properly with the day. So here, that's the right one. View, slideshow. Cool. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping for the day. So the HackMD link, David, if you could share it again in the chat, that has the full schedule of the day and a place for collaborative note taking. If you've been to these sessions before, you'll know that we kind of live on and breathe collaborative notes. Like when you go into the breakout sessions, we won't be recording those. So we rely on each room to take really robust and clear notes. We can write a report afterwards. So please do take those notes. If you have any questions about it and how it works, please ask in the chat. We also, on the HackMD, Slash is here, and if you can share this as well, we have the agenda for the day, which has some details on the breakout sessions we're going to have. And so you can look through those and pick and choose which one you'd like to go to when we get to that later in the afternoon. There are, I think, 5 co-chairs, unless Lucy is here. I haven't seen Lucy. Is Lucy here? I'm not sure. Okay, there's 5 of us on the call, and we should have co-chair in the name. So I'm Hurry. There's David, Simon, Madeline, and Balance. Actually, you know what? If you guys could introduce yourselves, that'd be great. Starting with David, we'll go through it as a list on the screen.
Hello, everyone. I'm David, research project manager at Turing for over a year now. Almost as I joined, I started with one of these meetings and have been enjoying since. Yeah, and I'm also here today for everyone who runs into any issues or problems. So just write to my email. I think it's in the HackMD, or via the chat if you're getting lost, if you need any help, lost a link, or don't know what's going on. Write to me. I'm here for you.
Simon?
Hi, I'm Simon Lee. I'm a senior research infrastructure engineer at Health Informatics Centre in Dundee. And I've been with the UK TRE since the very beginning, from when we had a slightly cobbled together meeting in Newcastle sometime, through to this meeting in Swansea, and now this funded proposal. And I'm really keen to see people get together in the UK, but I think we all know within the UK there are loads of people working on TREs. Over the past few years, there hasn't been as much cooperation as there should be, and I'm very pleased to see that changing as a result of everyone coming together.
Very much. Madeline?
Yep, I'm Madeline Hardacre. I am the head of e-research data governance at King's College London. So I work across our whole research computing platform, but obviously in governance right now, our big bread and butter is the TRE. So really excited to learn from everyone and hopefully pass on some of the tips and tricks and challenges that we've faced along the way. So really excited to have everybody here in this space. And yeah, if anybody wants to ask any questions or anything, very much here, open book. Happy to have chats and pick up things as we go along.
Awesome, thank you, Madeline. I think Lucy's not here, so Balance.
Hi everyone, yeah, I'm Ballant. I'm a program manager at Dare UK, working particularly around our community groups initiative, and obviously the UK TRE community is one of those. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome, thank you, Ballant. So there's 5 of us here today to help you guys out. David is like your primary point of contact, but any of the co-chairs will be happy to answer any questions you have, or any concerns, all that kind of stuff. So please do reach out to them. We are also governed by our code of conduct, which I had the link and then I removed from here, which is on our repo. I think, Simon, you have access to it, so you can share it in the chat. So if you have any concerns, please read through the code of conduct. We have a process for reporting on there as well, and please bear it in mind when you're in your breakout discussions and having conversations with other people on the call. Any questions you have can go just like straight in the chat. David will be monitoring it, and we'll ask questions from there. You can also just raise your virtual hand at any point. We'll probably, like, say for the keynote presentation, I keep doing this each time I say keynote, we'll probably just go through it and have questions at the end, but please feel free to raise your virtual hand, shove questions in the chat, all that kind of stuff. And the recording, we are recording at the moment, and we'll record this like a keynote and the community updates, but once we go into the breakout rooms, we won't be recording those sessions. So again, please, we're relying on notes from those rooms, especially the chairs and the leads of those rooms. Please make sure that you're taking notes and getting as much juicy content down as possible. Cool. That is it for the intro. Does anyone have any quick questions? concerns before we get started? Yeah, Rob.
Could I ask everyone who's not talking to go on to mute?
Yes, that'd be great. And also, if we do mute you, that's just so we can make sure that everyone can hear. So yeah, please do if you can yourself. Thanks. Cool. All right, so we're going to go into this keynote, which is going to be an update from the UK TRE community, and there'll be a chance for a discussion afterwards. As you'll see, we'll also have breakout rooms dedicated to dive into this in detail for anyone that's interested as well. So plenty of chance to talk about this. And the main reason we want to talk about it today is because we've had some significant changes and momentum building around this community, and a few things are changing. We wanted to share with everyone here on the call, also for people who can't make it and the recording afterwards, where we're at and what we're planning for the next few months and onwards, to make sure that we're like as successful and impactful for the community as possible. So this session is asking a few fundamental questions, starting with the why does the UK TRE community even exist in the first place? How are we doing all the work that we want to do, and how we're achieving our vision? So that why is kind of the core vision for why we exist, and the how is how we're going about it, and the what is more tangibly what are we focusing on for the next few months and what do we hope to focus on going into the future. There are some other existential questions like who and where, but the quick answers to who and where are who, everyone here, and where is also here and online. So those questions are kind of answered, and the focus of this presentation will be on the sort of why, how, what of the UK TRE community. So in terms of the why and what gap we think we're fulfilling for the community, does anybody know who this is? This would be huge. Not sure what's in the chat. Oh, I was hoping there'd be one person. Maybe he's more niche than I realized. So this is Paul Feyerabend. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is a German philosopher and an epistemological anarchist, which we won't dive too deeply into exactly what that means. But he wrote this book that I read recently called Against Method. And in short, it's like a critique of rationality and the scientific method and the idea of being open to all forms of knowledge. But he had a really cool argument in there that resonated with me. And given that I'm giving this talk, I'm like, why not share it with everybody that I can? So the idea in his book that he shares is, if you consider what you're seeing on screen now to be sort of like the sum of knowledge, and this could be all human knowledge, it could be knowledge in a certain domain. There's no X and Y axis here. This curve is supposed to represent the sort of cutting edge of bursting knowledge, and say it's all human knowledge, where human knowledge is currently at, and it's bursting at the seams to go further. And the question he's asking is, when knowledge goes further and we progress as a species or in a certain domain, when we progress, how do we get there? Because it doesn't just randomly jump into progress and jump into new knowledge. There's some kind of process underlying it. So the question he's asking is, what does it take to have this level and go further with it? And the argument he makes, which resonated very strongly with me, is, well, say this dotted line is kind of what is the accepted consensus on where knowledge is currently at, say in a specific domain area. What someone will do at some point is suggest a new theory or concept or idea that is kind of at odds and different to, and potentially in contradiction to, what is currently accepted. And when that first person or first group suggests that idea, it can cause a lot of tension. It can cause a lot, Balint used the word distortion when I was talking this through with him. I think it's a great word, a little distortion, a little bit of tension in the space, because it looks like something very different may be happening. But just by itself, that piece of new knowledge or that theory is just that. It's just a theory, it's just a concept, it's just an idea. But then what happens is someone somewhere else, or some group somewhere else, suggests something new, again, that's kind of in tension with the preconceived idea of where knowledge is at in this domain. And in some cases, when that happens, those two things work together or are coherent with each other or make sense together. And this can happen a few more times, then someone else can suggest something. And again, those things can be connected. And slowly you can build a bit of a pattern of new things are discovered, new theories identified, new methods are talked about. And you can see they all work together and all seem to make sense in a way that they didn't before the previous level of knowledge. And if you do this long enough with enough pieces of new knowledge in a certain domain, then you can kind of see a new frontier of knowledge emerge and burst forwards and upwards. And that is his argument for how new knowledge comes about. So it's often one or two ideas at the very beginning that cause a lot of tension and are very unacceptable. But as more ideas come out and as those ideas work together and coexist together, new patterns start to emerge, new concepts emerge, and knowledge is pushed forward. This argument kind of blew me away. And when I was thinking about the UK TRE community, I was thinking a very similar principle can be applied. So instead of just calling this knowledge and this surface the cutting edge knowledge of a domain or humanity, if we call this the current progress of TREs in the UK, and this is the cutting edge, we're bursting at the seams of the progress being made, then something new might pop up, which is kind of different to what was there before in a way that maybe people didn't quite understand or was using new concepts and new ideas like the NHS SDEs. And standing by itself, it's just a new concept, which is cool, but doesn't necessarily push things forward collectively. Then you might get things like the accreditations or frameworks for understanding what good TREs look like. And again, these are cool new things to think about and apply, but maybe are just standing by themselves and alone. You have reviews, reports that come out, like the Goldacre review, some reports say from DARE UK and HDR UK that add some thought leadership into the space. You can have, say, like the DARE federated architecture and blueprints for what TREs can look like. And ultimately, you can have all sorts of organizations, approaches, code bases, frameworks for understanding TREs. And this represents a huge amount of new energy and concepts in the space. But standalone, that's kind of all they are. They're just standalone. But if they're all connected, and if we find ways to bring it all together, see commonalities, see where we're using the same language, see where we understand the same principles and values, all that kind of thing, then we start to see a new level of TRE progress in the UK. And that is where progress can happen, not only the localized and individual project by project level, but at a regional, subnational, national, and potentially even international level as well. And that is my case closed for the UK TRE community. So in terms of where we see ourselves fitting in, we want to see the UK progress in its TRE provision in a collaborative, cohesive way. And we see the UK TRE community as being these like blue lines, these connectors, these facilitators, all that kind of stuff. A couple of important things to say in this analogy. The first is, just for illustrative purposes, I've made everything connect with everything else. In reality, that is potentially unlikely to be the case. There'll be pockets where certain frameworks and principles are applied and they work together. There'll be a different situation where an entirely different framework is applied. That is totally cool. We just want to make sure as a community we're connecting up the people who are doing similar or the same work, have the same principles and values, and making sure they're sharing knowledge as much as possible. Cool. So that is like the linking pool for a ribbon into our UK TRE community vision and approach. And what we're excited to share with you guys today is our first attempt at drawing out a vision for the community. And that vision is this: to have a four nations coordinated collaborative approach to research infrastructure for working with sensitive data. So to make sure across the UK, we are sharing knowledge where we can, sharing best practice, sharing tools, reusing code, all that kind of stuff, and moving forwards together. And in terms of how we want to go about doing that, as I kind of mentioned, we at the UK TRE community want to provide the space to signpost, to share knowledge, and facilitate conversations across the TRE landscape. I think another big thing to say, as demonstrated by this visualization, there's so much work going on already and so much amazing thought being contributed to the space. We want to facilitate that, and we don't really have any set agenda ourselves for exactly what this content looks like. We just want to make sure that it's available for as many people as possible. We will talk about this vision and mission in a breakout room afterwards. You want to go into detail about it as well. But this is our first attempt at putting it out on paper. Some of you may remember, if you were at the September meeting, that we shared this image on the left, and it kind of fits in nicely with our vision and mission. So we want the UK TRE community to be the kind of place for knowledge exchange, like these meetings and breakout rooms, but also any resources we create, to foster collaboration and to have conversations between teams and people that otherwise may not happen, especially to avoid duplication. So if we have really good work being done in the community that can be reused by other members of the community. We want to make that as easy to do as possible. Moving towards standardization, so thinking about how we can link those concepts up. If we're using the same language, if we're using the same standards, the same accreditation processes, all that kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier to work together. And ultimately just sharing best practice. I think we're all, a lot of us here on the school are on this journey together, trying to understand what best practice looks like in the TRE space. And if we can share that collectively, that'd be great for everyone. And just re-highlighting this, we are fundamentally driven by what you as the community members want. So we have set up, you'll see some governance processes and some approaches, but ultimately the content of what the community is working on and delivering on, we want to be decided as much as possible and co-created by the community. So please use today and also our spaces as a chance to shape what the community is working on. A very brief history of the UK TRE community. That's why we want to exist. Before we go into exactly where we're at now. So as Simon mentioned, we started in September 2022. Oh man, that's ages ago now. September 2022, with a meeting of about 25 to 30 people as a satellite event to RSECon in Newcastle. We agreed then to have quarterly meetings and to have a governing document, and since then have snowballed and had a few working groups, all that kind of thing, and ultimately built up to the meeting we had, which I think a lot of you on the call were at, in Swansea this year. I think it was on September the 4th, where we had 160 people attend. We had 100 people in person, which is our capacity in person, and then 50 to 60 online for a day of knowledge sharing, collaboration in the TRE space, which was awesome. And this photo encapsulates it. I don't think we could have imagined that we would have such a great turnout with so much energy and knowledge being shared in the room on the day. We did also have plenty of people review the sunken trolley. If you were there, and you know, if you weren't there, if you visit Swansea Bay campus and go to the sunken trolley, which is a trolley sunk out halfway out to sea, is a place many of this community have trodden before. That is the very brief history. In terms of what we're doing now, it's kind of split into two big parts, which have a sort of checkpoint in March 2023. So we're calling this period, December to March 2023, our current delivery period, and then March 2023 onwards, our future plans. And the main reason for that is, as you'll see in a second, we have some funding that we're using at the moment until March 2023, but we want to make sure that anything we're doing now is set up to last way further than March 2023, but go on for a long time. That idea of being the glue that connects all the work going up in the TRE space in the UK in a very cohesive and useful way will take a lot longer than March 2023. So we want to make sure that what we're doing is lasting for a long time going into the future. So in terms of our current delivery, we applied for the DARE UK Community Group funding, which came out in September. And it was a funding call for a bit of money from November until the end of March 2023 to work on a community group. It was co-written by over 15 people in the community, and thank you to everyone who contributed. Unfortunately, there were one or two others who actively wrote in the document, but I can only see your Gmail addresses and can't tell who you are from your Gmail addresses. So apologies if you're on this call and you don't see your name there and you contributed. But we had many people contribute to writing this proposal, and it got successfully funded. So thank you to everyone who was involved. And what we're kind of focusing now, and this is the kind of what we're doing as a group for the next few months and going forwards, is basically what we were funded to do in the proposal. We want to talk you guys through our plans and just have a bit of a conversation around, is this the right kind of thing? Are we prioritizing the right kind of stuff? Is the way we're going about it the right way? All that kind of thing. So we kind of had three main focus areas that we got funded for. The first is strengthening the community. The second is enhancing outreach and engagement. And the third is developing a resource hub. And we'll take each of those in turn. So in terms of strengthening the community, I was looking for inspiration. And so I went to ChatGPT and asked, in 2 words, how important are strong foundations? Didn't know what I'd get, but I've got vitally crucial back. And I have to say, I do agree with ChatGPT, and maybe looking at this also realizing where it's potentially not the same as talking to a human, because I think I'd find it a bit weird if someone said vitally crucial back to me. It would sound a bit hyperbolic. Nevertheless, strong foundations are critical. And again, when we're thinking about moving further than just March and going long into the future with this community space, we want to make sure that the foundations we've set up for the community are strong and robust and transparent and clear and doing what they need to as well. So a big focus of that is governance, and we are working on laying out transparently the different roles and responsibilities in the community. So for instance, we have the co-chair role. What exactly does that mean? How can you become a co-chair? How do you stop becoming a co-chair? All that kind of stuff. And other roles that may exist in the community, we are figuring out at the moment. Also, a potentially more meaningful membership. So our membership at the moment is the people who are on our UK TRE mailing list, and whether there's different levels of membership or a more formal way for teams and individuals and organizations to become members of the UK TRE community and maybe sign a charter or an agreement, all that kind of stuff. And also a governing document. So we wrote the first governing document, the Newcastle Commitment, back in September 2022. And given how much the community has grown over the last year and a half, we're writing a new document based on the Newcastle Commitment, but changed to be appropriate for the community at the moment. And this will be something that we abide by and also set up some processes around for updating and changing that, again, transparent and democratic and all those kind of things. We do have a way of working that we are setting up, and I'm just going to go out the slides and show you guys this. This is on GitHub, but I promise you it's not too bad. So this is kind of David's work of art, and it's great. It's really clear and transparent. You can basically think of this board as containing all the tasks that we're currently doing in the UK TRE community, and we'd love for you guys to add them as you take on tasks and as you get more involved. This is just a basic Kanban board on GitHub. You will have to, one thing you'll have to do to contribute to this is to have a GitHub account, but we're also going to write a bunch of documentation and walkthroughs and create a tutorial video for those unfamiliar to be able to contribute to this board. But in essence, you just have all these different cards with tasks on them, and they go all the way from ideas to a backlog, which is work we've agreed to do but have no plans to do yet, to planned work, which is work we're planning to start soon when there's capacity, work that is in progress, and work that is done. And the idea is that anyone from the community can come to this board and have a look at it and see what tasks are being done, how they can contribute, and where they can get involved, all that kind of thing. And we will add sort of more views and more tasks as they become apparent. So for instance, one of the tasks we need to do is decide the dates for the community meetings up to September 2024. And when you load this card, it has a few more details on it saying, oh, the summary is this. You need to decide the dates for the community meetings. And we should set these provisional dates, and these could send out a whole event to everyone in the community. That is a very simple task, and hopefully we can do that quite quickly. What we hope to see is in here, say from today in your breakout rooms, if you decide, oh, okay, we should do this next, we can open an issue on here and track it for the community. And then this becomes sort of the source of truth for the latest updates for what's happening in the community. We're also definitely not planning to go into too much GitHub detail with how we use this board. This is very much just tracking these cards and moving them through. And David has some dedicated time to make sure this is being managed and run properly as well. So any questions you have about it, we will have sort of time and resource and support available to help you navigate through. I'll take you back to the slide I was on. Yes, cool. Another thing we're setting up is this idea of working groups. So this is based largely on some work being done by DARE UK and also the Research Data Alliance, who have a very nice system for doing this stuff. I'm not sure if anyone here is part of the RDA, but they have on their website a whole heap of working groups. They have this distinction between working groups who focus on a specific task and deliverable, and interest groups that are more discussion groups. We're thinking of adopting a very similar principle to their working groups and having groups in the community who are committed to delivering a specific explicit deliverable within a certain time frame. And there will be, say, a couple of people who are one person or a couple of people who are in charge of that. There's a contact, a way to get in contact with the team for people who want to get involved, and a way for them to share updates and share their outputs with the community as well. We don't have a fully functioning version of what this looks like yet. And if you'd like to be involved in planning how this would work, please get involved in the breakout rooms afterwards. But the idea is to, all these conversations we have in breakout discussions, breakout sessions, on the email threads, anything that we think is actionable, we can turn into a working group. Someone can take responsibility for delivering it over a set time frame, and we can keep track of that in our community website and our community resources. From September, we had a load of breakout discussions, and we had a meeting in October to plan the next steps of them. And these are just some examples of working groups that were planned or are in the process of being set up at the moment. So things like TRE sustainability and operations, safety and security of Python and R packages, and their import into TREs. Some of these have breakout sessions running today as well. Some PPIE stuff, Sartre is in there, this comparison between cloud and on-prem TREs. And so we're trying to take a lot of these conversations that we have within these spaces and form some tangible work out of them as well. And then we'll publish that all on the website. We do also have this idea of a roadmap. And this is a very, very simple visualization of what we think this could look like. But if we're taking this working group approach where we say, okay, this working group is delivering this specific deliverable in roughly this amount of time, then we hope to have on a website a sort of tracker of a roadmap for the community, which includes live working groups, and these will be ones that already exist. These are just examples. Don't look too much into the specific things here. They're just example working groups that might exist. So if you come to the community website, you can look at it and say, oh, cool, like someone's doing the allow list working group. I'll get in touch with them and see if I can get involved. But what we also hope to do is have a list of possible working groups. And these will be from conversations like today. If in your breakout session, you're like, this could be a working group, but we have no capacity to work on it right now. If we could figure out like broadly what this working group would cover, how long it would take for them to cover that, how much resource we imagine it would take, how much of a priority that is for the community. If we can have those kind of resources and possible working groups available on our website, what we hope is, A, it lays out clearly where the priorities for the community are, B, sort of lays out how much work we think needs to go into all these things we're talking about. So metadata standards, Rob made a good point, probably can't be done in 18 months. So it'd be cool to have a discussion around how long do we think it would take to get done and how many people do we think it would take. And we do also hope this provides some justification for funding calls and proposals and saying this is like community consensus on what needs to be worked on at the moment. So if you were to see a possible working group and be interested in doing it, you'd kind of have the backing of the UK TRE community to work on it. Unfortunately, what this isn't right now, and maybe one day in the very optimistic future this will be the case, this isn't a funding opportunity. So we don't have really any funds as a community to fund these working groups. What we hope to do is, lay out what we think are priorities for the community and roughly how long they'll take, and then hope that gives people an idea of how they can take on these deliverables. We're also, the possible working groups won't be like the only list of things you can work on. So we're definitely not saying as a community, if it's not in the possible working groups, you can't work on it. It's very much a, if there's something you want to work on and be willing to take on, awesome, let's do it and let's make it a working group. These would just be almost, if you want to help in some way or you're interested in finding out where the gaps are, you'd be able to find them in the possible working groups. And we want to build off some great work being done already on figuring out what work is already existing and what's not by things like the Sail team, the Swansea team, and Dare UK as well, and others. Cool. That is the strengthening the community part. On the enhancing outreach and engagement bit, we want to do a proper landscape review of everything that is already in the TRE space. So we have this messy diagram from earlier, which shows some of the things that already exist in the TRE space. We don't know what this looks like yet, but the goal is to make this make sense. So what are the different groups, how are they linked together, how are they connected, what are they trying to achieve, all that kind of thing. Especially as a signposting organization, we want to make it so that you can come to the UK TRE website and just find out what you want to and the latest updates from the different parts of the TRE space that you are interested in. A big thing for us here is to signpost and not necessarily to host unless it makes the most sense for us to. So if there's already great work going on somewhere else, say like with the STAP community, they have an awesome community and loads of resources already. We're not looking to host all those resources on the UK TRE website as much as signpost people to that group and to the people who run it. So it's very much a collect it all, make it make sense, and then point people out to where they can go to find out more. We also have our own bunch of collaboration spaces. So we have a JISC mailing list for announcements and asks. We also have set up a UK TRE community Slack workspace for what we're calling more discussions and for working groups. I think the idea behind this, we're not going to go into too much detail now, and I think there's some strong views on it. The JISC mailing list is great for getting in touch with everyone in the community, but can sometimes become a little bit noisy with, say, like reply alls or people saying they can attend or can't attend events, all that kind of stuff. And we're trying to figure out the best way to manage that, because it is helpful to be able to reply to all when there's a discussion going on. We don't want to have people's inboxes clogged with emails they're not going to read. So we're figuring out, but what we're trying to ask the community is, if you have an announcement for everyone, or you have an ask for everyone, or reply to an announcement or ask that you think everyone would want to see, please do reply all on the Just mailing list, and please use it that way. If there are discussions that are developing, we'd encourage you to try and use the Slack workspace to go into detail with them, so that we don't clog up people's inboxes. And the main thing is just to double check each time you're replying to an email on the UK TRE mailing list, that you're not replying to the whole mailing list, but replying to the person that sent it. Just doing a bit of a sense check each time will hopefully help keep both working really well. With the Slack channel at the moment, we don't have too much in there. We have like a general channel and a random channel, I think, and we'll create more channels and more ways to talk as we need them. And then we also have these quarterly meetings. Couldn't think of a graphic for this one, so you get a circle saying quarterly meetings. And we want these spaces to be the place where you can come together and have live conversations with people. We'll have also in the breakout rooms general discussion spaces, so you can chat to whoever you want to, whatever topic you want to. And a question we have here is this right? Is this enough? Do we need like more meetings and more Zoom, like town halls or co-working spots, all that kind of stuff? And if you're interested in going into more detail on that, we'd love to chat to you about it after this talk in one of the breakout rooms. And then finally, developing the resource hub. So you may have seen on the working group screenshot I shared, the RDA has so many different things you can share. When you have a working group, you've got posts, wiki, events, repository, outputs, case statements, plenaries, members, all that kind of stuff. And what we want to really help facilitate is this kind of repository and outputs part of each working group. So as a working group, what are you trying to create? Is it like a repository and a code base? Is it a framework? Is it a paper? Is it even just a blog post or some sort of guidance? Is it just a markdown file for the UK TRE website? Like whatever you're trying to create, let's figure it out together and figure out what the best path is to actually delivering on it. I think what we want to make sure is when we have working groups that they're kind of moving forwards and we're doing what we can to support them. This support isn't endless, unfortunately. David and I have part-funded time to work on this as part of the community bid, but we're hoping if we get an idea of how much work there is and what outputs we're trying to create, we can expedite them and also potentially put together a case for more funding in the future for the community. We're also developing a bunch of different contribution pathways. So you've got like technical and non-technical contributions. So we're aware that GitHub and code can be a bit of a barrier to contributing, so we'll set up ways for people to contribute who aren't familiar with that. This will also not just be focused on just generation, so it's not just generating new content, but also contributing reviews and feedback and ideas and all that kind of stuff. If you want to get involved in like community management and maintenance and support of the community, we're going to set up pathways for that as well, and we'd love to have you involved because there is a lot of stuff to do. And also thinking about this idea of roles and positions, so we're going to set up slightly more formal roles in the community, say like working group leads who have certain responsibilities, and what does that look like, and there can be ways to contribute as well. And finally, and I've saved the best till last because this is kind of an amalgamation of everything that we've been planning to do. So we are hoping to build this resource hub as a website at uktre.org and make it your sort of like one-stop shop for everything you need to find out about the UK TRE community. And we've been thinking about it because at the moment we have a documentation site. So I'm just have some water. Oh, throat's getting a bit dry. We have a documentation site, which we realize can be a little bit hard to navigate and a little bit hard to find your way around. And when we look at other really good functional websites out there, like the Software Sustainability Institute and the Apache Foundation, what we found is that their websites are just like very familiar looking websites. Like when you go to the SSI website, when you go to Apache, you kind of know exactly where to find what you're looking for almost straight away. So we want to set it up in a very similar way and make it something that is able to be picked up by other people afterwards. So you might use a website builder or something. We are going to try not to write this in just like ourselves because then it becomes very associated with one particular technology stack and experience in that stack, but instead use something that anybody could then become a website manager for. In terms of what this may look like, the big reveal, ta-da, I always love drum rolls for a not too elaborate reveal. We've started thinking about what website could look like and how it can be designed. And we think something like this, so a header section, like a navigation bar, like you find on these websites, that covers these 5 main topic areas, can then become the basis for how you get involved with the UK TRE community. So the about bit is a bit of history, but also our governance and our people. It's mostly the governance related stuff. The resources is where we'll store like our wider community resources, like the roadmap and the landscape, but also specific community outputs that can be reused by anybody. The working groups will store where the current groups are and how you can get involved, but also past groups and their outputs, and potentially future groups and possible groups as well. The schedule for events, so no one has to miss an event again or get a reminder sort of one day before it's happening that it's happening tomorrow. Apologies, I have a bit of a bad habit for doing that, but hopefully with an event schedule, that won't happen. And all this sort of contribution pathways, so how you can get involved, how you can get started, and how you can contribute in all these different ways as well. And we are figuring that out, and will by the March meeting, have a more finished version to demo and show to you guys and get feedback on as well. That is our current focus until March 2023. This future plans question is pretty much just this one slide, which is, it's an open question. We have this funding proposal running until March 2023, so we have these key deliverables to deliver on. What we look like after that and going into March and onwards is a very open question, and we'd love to have your guys' thoughts and feedback and ideas for what we can do and how we can do it effectively going forwards. Because again, this work will take a long time, and we need to make sure that we're doing it effectively for a long time. In terms of how today fits in, going back to this surface of cutting edge TRE progress in the UK, we have 12 total breakout rooms, and we'll have 1 in each session on this community management stuff as well, from all sorts of different parts of the community, covering all sorts of different things. And we think each of these represents one of these like progress pushes, pushing UK TRE progress further up into a new national and international layer. And today is about learning about these projects, these initiatives, these problems, engaging with them, contributing to them, and then thinking, how can we take this forwards effectively and sustainably within the community? And also, with 2 people part-time funded, there's only so much that we can do in forming this glue work and being these blue lines between all these different projects. And so one thing it'd be great for you guys to think about when you're in your breakout sessions and beyond today as well is, how can you help in like connecting these projects and sharing knowledge across the landscape as effectively as possible. If we're all doing that, there's 70 odd of us here, there's 240 people in the community. If we're all being proactive in sharing knowledge, disseminating information and best practices, this will happen really quickly and really emphatically. So please do engage on that. Awesome. Okay, I think that is pretty much it from me. We're going to have a breakout room to dive deeper into this stuff. We'll look at like the vision and mission. We'll iterate it. We can look at the deliverables and make sure that we're doing the right things and which ones you think we should be prioritizing to finish by the end of March. And also what kind of thing we should be thinking about trying to do post-March as well. But I think if I'm broadly on time, so also acknowledgements, Turing Way community, so all the illustrations in the deck are from Scriberia, to the Community Management Working Group, to Dare UK, and all of our actually 240 members now. But I believe, yeah, that is it for me on the keynote. I think I'm finished decent time. Do we have any questions? Yeah, Rob.
Just to say, Harry, that at least half a dozen of us looked at your slides earlier on today, and none of us spotted that where you have March 2023, of course it should be March 2024. Just to clarify, collective failure. I mean, honestly, how much do we stare at yourself? But yeah, March 24.
I was saying it as well. Sorry, yeah. March 24.
It's been noted in the notes.
Amazing. That's one that everyone sees. They're like, oh, it's 2023. That makes sense. Do we have any questions, thoughts, ideas? Feedback?
I'll jump in. Sounds great, Harry. Yeah, really good overall. The plan looks great. Just wanted to say that. I don't really have any comments to make other than that. I guess, yeah, the whole mailing list versus Slack or other medium is always a bit of a challenge. So I guess we'll see what works best. Just wondering if there's a way of maybe doing a digest or something for the mailing list or something. I don't know. I don't know how hard that would be, just so that people who don't on Slack all the time can get an overview of kind of some of the main themes that maybe are happening on Slack. Just a thought.
I think newsletter or something I think would be good, especially as like more stuff is happening. Monthly newsletter or something. Yeah, the great idea.
I wouldn't see Slack. I don't use Slack anymore. So.
Okay, cool. That's one reason we want to keep the mailing list is like our baseline. Like everyone has access to the mailing list, and that's great. And then we could do like updates from Slack going out to the mailing list on a sort of probably monthly. I was about to say bi-weekly, but I think that's a bit too often.
Harry, I can ask you a question. I wasn't clear. I mean, March, as we understand, March 24, being the end of the current funding, is there going to be gaps in supporting the UK TRE framework post the Dare UK funding?
Potentially, it's hard to tell at the moment, depending on what funding opportunities are available. And I think the one thing we want to make sure we have in how we're set up is if there are periods where there isn't funding available, we can still keep things ticking over and say like voluntary capacities, basically voluntary capacities until funding becomes available. I think one thing we're hoping is that if we do this work really effectively, we'll see how like fundamental this work is, and hopefully we get support in the future. But obviously, it's not guaranteed. David?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that answer, and that, as Simon is saying, we have been doing this for over a year with no funding. It's still going to be a priority for us chairs in the capacity that we can. Also from the Alan Turing, it's very supportive in our role here, even when we don't have external funding. There will be some, but certainly we need to see about the long-term sustainability.
Rob?
Just a comment from a Dare UK perspective. We do see UK TRE and the activities that it coordinates as kind of essential to the Dare UK mission. So the idea of some form of support features very strongly in our thinking for what we would like to be able to support in Dare UK in the future. And the details of that are emerging real soon, at least for the next year or so. So, we hope if there is a gap, it won't be a very long gap. But as Simon says, this has been free effort up until now. So, but support really allows us to do something like this that Harry and David have put together.
Thank you, everybody.
Any other final thoughts, questions, ideas, feedback?
Just since we got Dare in people representatives in the call, might it be useful for them to quickly sketch out the different community of interest groups that exist alongside this that they funded?
I can jump in there. So a total of 4 community groups were funded from our community group funding call. So we have obviously the UK TRE community group, which is the community management group, which is an interest group that sits within, I guess, the community of practice that is the broader UK TRE group. We also have the the community group that actually I think Jim is the PI on, which is around, I need to remember the name of the full name of the community group, but this is around the evaluation of outputs and risk assessment of AI models. Actually, we have 2 community groups that are interested in the evaluation of outputs, and the other is led by Simon Thompson, which is on the risk assessment of AI models. So as there's lots of interest in whether or not it's safe to release AI models into the wild that have been trained using sensitive data. So there are 2 community groups around that. And then the final community group is PEDRI, which is interested in how we can best do public engagement and across, this is for cross-sector sensitive data research. There's lots more information on our website about the different community groups, and as well as links to their community charters where you can find out more. So I'll drop that in the chat. Well, I think Fergus has already done that.
Thank you, guys. And yeah, just to reiterate, as a UK TRE community, we want to point out to these groups as just like a signpost to where all the great work is happening. So once we read about the website, that information will be available there. Yeah, Fergus.
Maybe just, I suppose not. It's just really a thought. I'm not sure if there needs to be too much discussion about it. But I guess the one risk is always adding more noise to the space, right, rather than sort of more coherence. And so I think it's just, again, between all the community groups and sort of all the initiatives that exist, it's sort of trying to bring things together and make visible work that's already going on, rather than sort of, duplicating or adding more noise and less clarity. Right? So I guess it's just a general observation. It's probably somewhat of a risk. I'm sure we're all aware of it and trying to manage it, but just something to keep in mind, right?
Yeah, totally. I think that's where having a really clear landscape review of what's already there and where it all exists should help.
Good luck. Not an easy job, that one.
Easy one. A version 1. Well, a version building of all the ones people have done already. Yeah, Rob?
This touches on Vishnu's question in the chat, but how does SARTRA fit with SDE accreditation emerging from UK Stats Authority conversations? This is a good example of the sort of thing that this community can't necessarily do or drive, but it can certainly signpost for the rest of the community and be a touch point. There are some things which are going to happen probably outside this community, but nevertheless, we can channel them in here and say, here's a thing that we should all be aware of.
Yeah, I think that's where we want this space. Where I think it's been really successful so far as well. We have members of the SARTRA team here. We have members of the NHS SDE team here as well, who will hopefully be in breakout rooms together, or at least, if not, they'll be able to read up on the notes from those breakout rooms and make contact with each other afterwards. I think that's a big point on where we as a community, with 2 partly funded people, can't do necessarily all of this work actively ourselves. So it's kind of up to community members to spot those opportunities or those conversations that could be happening, and we'll facilitate them happening. We can't necessarily make them happen or lead them happening. Any final thoughts? We are bang on time, which also never happens to me. If you've been at these meetings before. Cool. If you do have more thoughts, you can ask them in the chat. And as I said, we'll have a breakout room on this stuff in each of the 2 sessions if you want to join and dive a bit deeper into the actual vision and mission and deliverables and all that kind of thing as well. But moving swiftly on, we'll have a break after this where we can stretch our legs before the breakout sessions. But we've got some community updates. So as I mentioned before, this section is just 15-ish minutes for anyone in the community. You've got 70 odd members of the UK TRE community here from all across the TRE landscape. If you have any updates or thoughts or anything you want to share with the community, now is a chance. 2 or 3 minutes per update is great. Not going into too much detail, but almost a, hey, we're doing this thing we've got here. This is my name, this is my contact information. If you want to find out more, please let us know. And again, with that, figuring out where opportunities lie, this is a great chance to see, that's a conversation that I should be having or I'd be interested in having. We did have mainly one person submit ideas for community announcements. So I'll give Pete and Madeline, and just basically Pete for the other 2, the floor first, just because they submitted in advance. And then if you do have announcements, please, Emily, if that's an announcement, yeah, please raise your hand, and we can just queue them and go through them. Emily, is that a question or an announcement?
It was going to be an announcement, so I'll put my hand down and wait my turn.
Yeah, cool. No, you can keep it up so you can stay in front of Simon. Oh, Simon comes to the top. Pete or Madeline, if you are there and would like to do your announcement or announcements.
Yeah, sure. I think on behalf of Madeline and myself, I've got some slides quickly to be shared, if that's okay. We're treating these as work streams. Within the, I think people were offered to log in and express their interest in joining these three, along with all the other few that were also included. The 1, 2, 3 will cover each of them a little bit in some slides. Very keen on you coming to join those discussions, like the other work streams. The background to all of this is maybe described by the few points at the bottom in blue where my mouse is wiggling, is why are we all here? Why do we have TREs, and what is our purpose, a bigger purpose, not just for the community and what you went through very earlier, but a suggestion is that we want to build infrastructure that supports research. And that goal of those researches and the infrastructure is to help get more beneficial societal outcomes, get the most out of them, and make harder questions easier to answer, i.e. having the data available in a way, in a place that is suited, makes questions we can't think of now able to be addressed, and therefore we might be able to attack over the time. The other one is to make sure that those best answers come more quickly, and that we can complete our research faster, and we spend less time setting things up and more time doing work. And the last is probably that we want projects to, inverted commas, cost less, both in terms of time and resources. And if we can provide a facilities that allow things to cost less and get answers more quickly and have harder questions more able to be answered, then that's a success for everyone. And that's probably why we build TREs and have them and data sets and such like. So in that basis, we were looking at, well, what are the terminologies that we want to use that helps us make sense of this technical world, but also where we are actually sitting? How does the citizen retain a degree of role? And last one is, well, what possible architectures would allow us to retain extend the domain of custody and the control of the data? So on those three topics, those were the three that you had listed. We're going to use, Madeline and I had a chat beforehand, and we thought that this slide deck would be maybe a useful basis to tell that story. That at the moment we have three major data domains, aggregated data domains, such as the secure data environments, the citizen data domain, where they have personal data collected by themselves for themselves in their own world or with other technologies, and then a trusted research environment domain with researchers with their lab data on the right and administrative domains, including the NHS on the left. And the model today, which we talked about, has the TREs and the STEs mutually connected. And the suggestion for language would be that we move to something more like this, that we separate STEs from TREs formally. And we want us to see and explore with other people's viewpoint what that might look like, so that we can put the citizen in the middle. And so what are the logics that would describe an STE or a TRE, and how does that make sense with the existing world? So that would be one work stream. Language such as shares or this extended domain of control, what does that mean? How do we extend the ability for the controller worlds to basically exist within projects, for example? How does that work? Because presently those TREs over here, if we move them over here, how do we do that? So the suggestion is that this work stream would have an initial open session. We're planning for the second in the beginning of January, have two sessions to allow people to drop in one or the other based on problems of diaries. So one's 2 to 3 on Tuesday the 9th and 3 to 4 on Wednesday the 17th to allow people to join us. We can send out a note via whatever the right channel is, Hurry and team, to allow people to express their expectations, their ideas on scope and what they can contribute, how that plan might lay out, and what other work streams would be needing to be connected to and liaised with the aim, first objective, to present something back at the March event and sort of more of an interim progress, and then for some time in the spring to have a first outcome that might be, for example, a set of definitions worked through with the other work streams and their leads. So that would be the first area, looking at what is the separation between these things and how could those things be defined more clearly so that it's technically and facility and feature and all of those sort of things are quite clear as to what's what. Emerging definitions that we shared, Madeleine and I. So second area would be how does the world of TREs maintain a place for the citizen? The axiom is more like a future view. In the future, there's an expectation, certainly in my head, that consent will be a much larger part of future research. So how then will it fit into the SD and TRE environments? And not to labour things too much, lots of political, technical, social things are driving towards that axiom, that we can certainly see at the moment that the citizens' agency is moot in this data. We have no control of citizens. They've been put elsewhere, embodied by the state. But it's very likely that a consent model might be needed. So make sure we're building things that has infrastructure suited to that within the SD and TR infrastructure. So that's the sort of concept, and it's built around this principle that data is collected from citizens all over the place. And actually the hardest questions are probably the combination of all of these items of data, such that they can all be put into some sort of time-oriented digital twin or some sort of collective longitudinal set of data, which would require a consent and over time would become a base of data that would be sort of second to none to answer all sorts of questions and complete all sorts of researches. But that requires a balance of the trust of the citizen with the agency of the citizen. I'll give you my consent if you give me some reward. So what we're planning there is to make sure that in that gap created between the SD and TREs, there's some ability for the citizen to have some engagement, some ability to be informed as to what's happening and see what the result of their world is. As a result of that, we're thinking that, again, this work stream should have a point to discuss. And so we're proposing 2 dates again in the beginning of January, different times on the same sort of days. We can move these, of course, based on people's feedback and what they would like to do. Those 2 windows, again, to set out a scope of work and what particular work streams should be more closely connected to it. Again, with a view to progress something in the March TREs with a white paper suggested as a final outcome objective, developed through explaining the strategy for maintaining the citizens' impact and the implications on the national initiatives and more wider work streams.
If you do the last one really quickly, just to make sure there's enough time for.
I wasn't aware that okay, thank you very much, I will. The last one is making sure that, well, if we're looking at separating the two, what's a common infrastructure might there be that would allow us to, inverted commas, make sure this extended domain of control exists? And again, sessions planned for Wednesday and Tuesday with an interim report and again, a white paper suggested. So very welcome people's joining us in these teams.
Thank you very much, Pete. That was a great community update and the kind of thing that we're excited about to help you set up those working groups and support them going forwards as well. Thank you. I know, well, before going to you, I know Emily and Simon, you had your hands up. I'm not sure if you still have.
Quick question. Pete, Madeline, could you put contact details for those sessions into the notes, please? Ta.
Thank you, Rob. Emily, if you are there, I would like to do your update.
Hi, I am. Yeah, I can't turn on my camera at the moment. So just wanted to let everybody know that we've actually although we haven't had the award letter yet, that we have some funding from UKRI around researcher passports. Chatting around the community, we think that different people have a different take of what a researcher passport is, but we have a project where we very much want to partner with lots of different people working across the TRE space to assemble rather than build different components that might help people do that bit of the 5 safes, which is the safe researcher idea. So when there's a new project and a new researcher, each different TRE has to assess that researcher is safe, and they use different sets of criteria, and they then set up an account for them to log in. So we'd like to do some work working across lots of different people to find out what are the needs in this area, what things do people check, what would be helpful to standardize on. Would a technical solution help, which people could log into and see different bits of information, and maybe also see if there's been any sort of blacklisted activity or whatever in other TREs, all of those exciting things. So just letting everybody know that we're going to be doing this. Very much want to reach out to the community. We've got a workshop at 3 o'clock today for those of you who want to attend our one. For those of you who are attending another workshop today but are interested in it, please do reach out, and Loki and Fergus are leading on this, so reach out to them rather than me, because you're far more likely to get an answer.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Emily. And like I said, that will be a workshop at 3 today after the break, if you would like to join that as well. Simon?
Yep, I'll have a quick one. So if you've been involved with running TREs on AWS, you might know that AWS have recently revamped their TRE offerings. So they've released a new open source product called Research Engineering Studio, which they eventually hope will basically be a standard for running TREs on AWS. So HIC are currently looking into it. I've just been trying to deploy it with varying degrees of success. Obviously, if anyone else is doing the same, it would make sense for us to get together and chat, so we're not duplicating work, just to share ideas and sort of, see how we're finding it. So if you're interested, email me. I'll put my email address on the notes, and then I'll get in, and I'll set a meeting next year, probably January.
Thank you, Simon. We'll also circulate these updates afterwards as well, in case anyone hasn't taken notes or anything. Any more at this stage? Yeah, Jim.
If Emily's going to start doing plugs for sessions, then I'll put in one for the community of interest, which has got an appalling name, which is one of the things we're hoping to sort out. But it's about if you're going to do automated evaluation of outputs or semi-automated, what are the standards for evaluating how you do that? Spoiler alert, of course, you're going to have to do semi-automated checking if you want to regress machine learning models. That community of interest group is one of the options at 3 o'clock. And it'd be great to just get as many voices in there as possible.
Thank you, Jim. That is also at 3. Workshop. Final thoughts before we go into a break. Anybody has anything to share? Speak now or hold your peace for 10 minutes until we come back. Cool. All right. So we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back for the breakout sessions. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock just so we can then come back and make sure the breakout rooms are working properly, but we'll start them at 3. I've put the link to the agenda in the chat. And so if you want to have a quick look at that and just refamiliarize yourself with which ones are happening and which one you'd like to join, please do. Otherwise, we'll see you in 10, 15 minutes and go to the breakout rooms.